Please just share a little bit about who it is that you serve, how you serve them.
Yes. So I help women from the typewriter generation, AKA over 50, launch their first expert-based online business. And hysterically, the other day, I said that out loud and somebody replied to me, JJJ, PPP. And I'm like, only people who took typing class will even get that. Because we all remember the exercises. Yeah. So I help women over 50 start their first online business. That's what I do.
Okay. And before we get any further, I just want to highlight how brilliant I think your value statement is. So we have this structure that we use, a value statement, and you identify who it is that you serve. Now, a lot of people will say, I help experts and entrepreneurs, right? So we'll say things like that are very much like this type of person and this type of person. But yours has a little bit of a spin on it. So did it take you a while to come up with that typewriter generation? Like, how did you actually come up?
3 years. It took me 3 years. Yeah, I played with so many different taglines and everything. And it came to me one day. I was doing in my group and I said, does anybody remember typing class? And I swear, like 3 years later, that post still gets comments on it because it was like such a tangible thing that we all remember, like the smell of the ink and the crazy typing test where they would cover the keyboard. You couldn't see it. And, memorizing the QWERTY, like, people don't realize it's called a QWERTY keyboard because of how the letters are QWERTY on your keyboard. Anyhow. So I thought everybody's like totally getting into the typewriter thing. And that's how I came up with it.
Which is a story and a lesson in it of itself. Yeah. And I did not tell you I was going to ask you that question. So I love this because the fact that it took 3 years, you kept showing up, testing your messaging and seeing what lands.
Yeah. And I kept using women over 50. I'm like, okay, that's right. But it's just kind of dull. Like, Well,
and I don't know. I mean, it's funny because when you say it, you can see, hold on. I got to do a little muting. Okay. You can see here that like Beckwith, a member of the Cam fam, she says, I'm a typewriter generation gal. People want to self-identify with that. It's something we want to find terms for our community that they're excited about identifying with.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yes.
So, oh my gosh, I love it so much. So that is great. And now we're going to head into your story. So I'm going to pop off and I'm going to let you take over. Is that good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Awesome. All right. So my story is actually a bit of a confessional, how I happened into the online space and how it turned out to be my mission to help other women over 50 also get into this online space because it can be a bit of a mystery. But anyhow, I was laid off or like unceremoniously canned along with 10,000 other people about 5 years ago. And I was just kind of done with the corporate space. I'd had a really, decades long successful career and I was ready to do something totally different. So I just thought I'm going to rekindle this old passion. Like 1,000 years ago, I had been a freelance writer for magazines. So I thought to myself, I'm going to start an online magazine for my little town in Florida. And I literally said to myself and my husband, how hard can it be? And so on day 2 of that entrepreneurial journey, I was like, oh, holy heck, what have I done? I was overwhelmed and I was completely and utterly shocked at how unprepared I was for this online business space, despite like decades of experience in marketing and sales and all of that kind of stuff. So I was, I thought, gosh, that was kind of arrogant. You like thought you were so smarty pants, Colleen. And then you get in here and you're like, what? So anyhow, it was like shock and awe, but I started the business anyway, and I really decided to figure it out. So I jumped into a bunch of online courses, how to start your online business, all this stuff. And of course, they were all taught, or like 99% of them, by much younger people. And I had this realization that they really had no idea where I was coming from at quote my age. At the time I was 49, I'm 54 now, but there was just huge information gaps. Like they assumed a lot of knowledge. And I found myself not raising my hand because I thought, oh my gosh, if I ask that question, I'm going to get like this eye roll, like, grandma can't operate, her smartphone kind of eye roll. Like I felt it through the computer. So I didn't raise my hand, but I started asking in these groups, is there anybody else in here like over 50? And they came out of the woodwork. So I thought, oh my gosh, there's a whole bunch of us wanting to do this, but there really weren't resources directed right to us. So anyhow, I persisted, figured it out. I did start that business. It was a success. I later sold it I didn't sell it for millions or anything, but that was a whole nother story. But in the meantime, I had identified this huge gap in the market. And I thought, oh my gosh, like we women over 50 are built for entrepreneurship. Like we have decades and decades of experience. Like we need to get into this online space because the opportunities, of course, as you know, are incredible. So I decided that I would make that my mission and that would be my new business. So I launched a business called The Scrappy Frontier, which there's a whole story behind the name of it, but that's for another conversation. And my whole mission is to help women over 50 start their online businesses. And I have a school called the Scrappy School of Online Business. But the truth is, starting an online business for us over 50s, it really is different. And in my corporate career, I came out of educational technology. And so there's terminology for us, like users of technology. We over 50s are called digital immigrants, whereas younger people are digital natives. And I always use the analogy like kids today, they're born like teething on their mom's iPad, and like we were born like sucking on our mom's dirty car keys because there just wasn't like the technology, right? But the truth is we approach technology very differently. And it actually has to do with having grown up with the typewriter. Like there were consequences for the buttons and consequences for everything we did. There wasn't copy, paste, delete, clone, all of those things. So we're much more cautious approaching the technology. But the deal is, we are so equipped to start online businesses. And one of the challenges is we tend to focus on the tech part, which is totally surmountable, totally doable. And we forget to focus on like how like freaking amazing we are. We have so much experience to bring to the online space. And the cool thing is like, you can pretty much start an online business doing just about anything these days, which is so amazing. And so I really wanted to focus on women over 50. I figured it out. I wanted to offer a super like safe space to be able to ask any question at all. Like, I mean, any question at all. And I also feel like there's a bit of a camaraderie, like we're all kind of in a similar season of life, maybe empty nesters. Life is happening hard. I became a widow 3.5 years ago. And so it's just kind of a shared experience. But anyhow, my lesson is, man, if you want to start an online business, do it, because it is the most like incredibly satisfying thing in the world. You can, create as big or little of a business as you want, etc. And so that's kind of my story. What I have for you all today is I went back and documented all of the mistakes I made, and there were a lot of them. And so I have for you what I call my ultimate don't list. And it's basically all the mistakes I made back when I was starting my first online business. So you can just kind of skip that part. You can just skip that part and go to the good stuff. So that is my story for you. That is my story.
Man, I love it so much. And I think it's so, there's so many levels of looking at that journey on how you identified that gap, how you saw where maybe you needed some support and maybe where you could give that support to others. So there's so many layers of goodness.
Yeah. I remember the first time somebody said, you need a funnel. And I'm like, I have one of those in my kitchen. I'm pretty sure that is not what we're talking about. I'm pretty sure. And so it was just, I knew that there was a big information gap.
Oh my gosh. And the feeling of, safety and camaraderie as well, I think is such a huge piece of what you offer.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one of the challenges, we don't see ourselves celebrated out there. You see the Forbes 30 under 30 and all of that. So we don't see ourselves, when oddly, statistically, we're more likely to start a successful online business than somebody 30. I mean, like it's science. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy. Like,
it's science.
crazy.
I have this would actually be something maybe we've talked about this before, actually, but there's some people like Mariska Hargitay, for example, where I know that she didn't actually get her break until she was in her 40s or late 40s maybe. And I love hearing these stories of people where their real level of success came at a time when maybe some people may feel that it's a little too late for them to start that adventure. And it's so not true. So
no, we're living a lot longer now. If you're 65, you have like probably another 30 years. Like what the
You're
heck
a baby.
What are you going to do with that time? Yeah.
I love it so much. It's so good. So good. I mean, I love also, like, in glam, we have Bev, who I believe she's right around there. And she just did her first bodybuilding competition. Also, like bathing suit bodybuilding. I'm like, what is actually happening? It's so awesome. Stephanie, another member of Glam, she did her first $1 million a year when she was 60. So it's like, there you go. It's so awesome. Okay. So to get this, I put the link in the chat, and I'll make sure we're broadcasting in a few different places right now. So I'll make sure it goes everywhere. But if you go to scrappyfrontier.com, the ultimate don't list, the ultimate don't list, you can get this list
for that link.
Oh my gosh. I love it. It's okay. We got it. It's scrappy. It's good. I think this sounds like good just reading material for entertainment.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. It's like, just read this and heed my advice. Like, don't do these things. I've had so many people say, like, oh my gosh, have you been following me around? Because I've already made all those same mistakes. Yeah.
And it allows us to feel like those mistakes that we've made, it's okay. There's learning in all of it. So
you can avoid them. You can avoid them. Yeah.
So awesome. All right. Okay. I'm so grateful for you as a member of our program. I'm so inspired by your visuals, everything. Just when you show up, it makes me happy. Let's talk about your mic also. Here, show me. Here, I'm going to make you full screen so you can show your mic real quick before we hop off, because isn't her mic, and I did the same thing. I got one too. Isn't it so cool? This mic cover?
Yeah, it's just a cover for the Yeti. Isn't that fun?
It's so good. And it's so branded.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much, Colleen. And make sure you guys go check out that list of don'ts. I'm going to bop you down and bring on our next guest. Oh my gosh. Bye.